Good evening, dear Jane and Miriam, and whoever else has not logged in, but they've joined us all the same. Good to have your company on this Saturday evening here in Cumbria. And could you believe that this is part 20 on the Christian mystics, but tonight it's Nicolas of Cusa, part 2. But before we begin, let us just be still. Come into our hearts and just let us take a nice deep in breaths. Breathe in the love of all the great ones who've gone before us. And in our out breaths, let us release any tension, weariness, illness, tiredness, be it mental, emotional, psychological, or physical, and share it with Mother Earth, with Gaia, and just be still and relax in the presence of all that is sacred to you. You may not be a Christian, but you may be interested in knowing about some of our great Christian mystics, Julian of Norwich, Thomas Aquinas, Meister Eckhart, many, many more, and Hildegard of Bingen and Teresa of Avila. But tonight it's Nicolas of Cusa. But before we begin, let us just say our prayer of entry. You may choose to just listen to me, or you may be guided to say it with me from the comfort of your own sanctuary. I cross the bridge into the silent bliss of my castle. I close the drawbridge and forbid all outside influences from entry into this holy place, a place that is my soul. Here in my castle, I am alone with my God. And under God's light and companionship, I discovered the depth and the beauty of my own soul. I embrace the power of prayer. I open myself to divine guidance, and I surrender myself to become as a channel for grace, for healing and service as God directs my life. And that's the key, as God directs my life. Let us just reflect on those words given by none other than the great Spanish mystic, the amazing Teresa of Avila, who paid the price, yes, who paid the price dearly within her community and within her beloved church for daring to seek divine intimacy with her beloved. But undeterred, she kept her eyes focused on divine oneness. Be still now. And we offer this time together for our highest good and for global peace and interspiritual unity, and that one day in the Cathedral of Light, where there are no walls, the whole family of God, all faiths and none, will come, break bread together, and sing the great Alleluia. And now we read from Nicolas of Cusa, the Lord of sky and earth has heard the groans of those who have been slaughtered and imprisoned and reduced to slavery, and who suffer because of religious wars, and And the Creator is moved with compassion towards humanity and will try to guide all the variety of religions to one greater, unimpeachable harmony in which all opinion is one. Isn't that profound? And that's what you and I strive for in our walk with God as a pilgrim each day, in which all opinion is one. But Matthew says, Cusa is decrying the price innocent people have so often paid for violent religious crusades and pogroms and inquisitions. He promises that God will eventually clean up religion and move it beyond warfare and conquest and proselytizing to a greater unimpeachable harmony. In the meantime, how are we doing? How are you doing? Are you making any efforts in your daily life to seek divine oneness, where there is only one opinion, that God is love, that God is male and female, and that God, the goddess, is present as much in the landscape as in some ornate building, and that the animal kingdom have a right to be here too. But let me read this to you, and it's by Nicolas of Cusa, the great mystic. Wisdom is shouting in the streets. It is simply not enough for those seeking wisdom merely to read about it. Wisdom must be discovered. And once discovered, it must be learned by heart. You will not find wisdom in your books, for it is not of your books, but of the books of your God, Goddess. What are these books? They are those which the divine has written with her own finger. Where can they be found? Everywhere, says Nicolas of Cusa. Aren't those words singing to your heart? They are mine. They are so beautiful. And Matthew says, like pre-modern thinkers everywhere, Cusa does not consider literal books and human words adequate for understanding God's word, as it is to Aquinas and Eckhart and Francis of Assisi. To Cusa, the book of nature is just as important as human books. You don't read about wisdom so much as you search it out in the streets. You discover it everywhere and in everything. It is available to all. It is free of charge. Literacy is no test of spirituality. And Nicolas of Cusa shares this because in all speech, divinity is unexpressible. There can be no limit to the means of expressing it. And Matthew Fox explains that by saying, first, Cusa acknowledges what Aquinas and Eckhart do, that God has no proper name. No word can properly identify God. In all speech, divinity is unexpressible. On the other hand, this means everything is a name for God. Everything and no thing. All beings express divinity, and all efforts can express divinity. Yet all fall short as well. But Nicolas of Cusa says this: the scholars are deficient in that they are afraid to enter the darkness. Reason shuns it and is afraid to steal in. But in avoiding the darkness, reason does not arrive at a vision of the invisible. Divinity is the coincidence of opposites. And Matthew explains this really well. He says, 2 centuries before the period we called Enlightenment, Cusa warns us of the dangers of a cult of rationality, and he criticizes scholars as afraid of the dark, afraid of places that reason cannot enter. In this way, he invites us to enter the dark, to seek the comprehensible, the incomprehensible, to look for the invisible there. This is the apophatic divinity, balancing the God of light with the God of darkness, is an expression of the coincidence of opposites. This is one reason why reason alone has trouble apprehending divinity. Paradox often names divinity best. Divinity is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, the macrocosm and the microcosm, the yin and the yang, the dark and the light, the soft of the hard, the soft and the hard, the coming together of the dynamic of opposites. This takes us beyond left brain thinking to more inclusive right brain thinking. Did you get all that? Nicolas of Cusa says this: the relationship of our intellect to the truth is like that of a polygon to a circle. The resemblance to the circle grows with the multiplication of the angles of the polygon. But short of the polygon actually becomes a circle. No multiplication of its angles, even if it were infinite, will make the polygon equal the circle. It is therefore clear that all we know of truth is that the absolute truth as it is beyond our grasp. The more mindfully we learn this lesson of ignorance, the closer we draw to truth itself. And Matthew goes on to explain, we approach truth, but we do not seize absolute truth, which is beyond our grasp. This ought to make us a bit humble and our ways humble. It ought to inspire humility. We need to carry this lesson of ignorance with us at all times, for this awareness will itself draw us closer to truth. Clearly, Cusa sees no human thought or system as upholding all truth. He is a champion of limits. Do you agree with his analogy? What happens when groups or individuals ignore this teaching and see their understanding as the only absolute truth? What dangers unfold from that? But Nicolas goes on to say it is necessary for one who wants to attain understanding to raise the intellect above the meaning of words rather than to insist upon their properties, which in any case cannot be properly adapted to such great mindful mysteries. Intellectual knowledge alone and unaided desires and exaggerates the victory of words, and it is far from that to God, who is our peace. I wonder what Matthew Fox has to say about that. Well, he says, The intellect by itself exaggerates the victory of words. Have you ever found this to be true? Have you ever had moments when language and logic failed? Whether to resolve a dilemma or to even reach an understanding? Do you always pray with words, or do you sometimes reach out wordlessly? Has a painting ever communicated to you without words? As Cusa observes, it's worth training our intellect to rise above the meaning of words in its effort to touch the great mindful mysteries. For the God of peace is far from the place of words. And Nicolas says the universe is in each person in such a way that each person is in it. And so every person in the universe is the universe. That is profound. I'm going to read that again. The universe is in each person in such a way that each person is in it. And so every person in the universe is the universe. And Matthew explains this as meaning we, the microcosm, carry the macrocosm in us quite literally. Cusa is offering us not only a mystical insight, but also an accurate description of today's science. We now know that the whole universe and everything in it began with a cell smaller than a zygote. And this cell became the fireball, and the fireball birthed hydrogen and helium atoms, which became galaxies and supernovas and stars and planets, and our home, Mother Earth. Quite literally, we are in the universe, and the universe is in us. Nicolas of Cusa says every creature as such is perfect, even by comparison with others it may seem imperfect. None desires greater nobility than any other. Each loves that nobility which God has given it while striving to maintain and intensify that nobility. Every creature is, so to speak, a God creature, a finite infinity, which means that no creature's existence could be more perfect than it is. And Matthew says there is a nobility to every species, which derives from each species' own self-defined perfection. In that context, life is not a survival of the fittest competition among beings, nor do humans possess greater nobility. All creatures are only busy being the best they can be, while striving to maintain and intensify that nobility. That is the push in evolution which applies equally to all, not one over others. Evolution is the quest for perfection or for bringing out the best in ourselves, the nobility of ourselves. Beautifully put. And short and sweet, a one-liner from Nicolas of Cusa: wonder is the reason we seek to know any reality whatsoever. I repeat, wonder is the reason we seek to know any reality whatsoever. And Matthew explains this by saying Cusa is very much on the side of Aquinas, and he reflects the pre-modern consciousness that considers wonder the starting place of philosophy. It is one that it drives us to know, not doubt, as Descartes and modern consciousness postulated. Wonder leads to wisdom and to satisfaction and delight. Learning is a joy, yet it is our educational system, yet is our educational system teaching these things? Do we have a wonder-based curriculum? Do you approach learning with joy? Well, I didn't. Are your young people learning these things in school? Are they? I can't speak for you in Zurich or in New Zealand, but I can certainly say up here in Cumbria, no. But Nicolas of Cusa says, I experience your wisdom, my God, which not only does not condemn me as a miserable sinner, but sweetly feeds me with distinct desire. Oh, isn't that beautiful? I experience your wisdom, my God, which not only does not condemn me as a miserable sinner, but sweetly feeds me with distinct desire. Oh, wow. And Matthew says, like Julian, Cusa invokes desire as that which most sweetly feeds us, not condemnation, nor an image of ourselves as sinners, but the journey of desire takes us to what is beautiful and full of grace. Where are your desires taking you these days? Are you in touch with your deeper desires? Are you in touch with your deeper desires? Well, let us read this from John of the Cross. My beloved is the mountains and lonely wooded valleys, strange islands and resounding rivers, the whistling of love, stirring breezes, the tranquil night at the time of the rising dawn, silent music, sounding solitude, the supper that refreshes and deepens love. John of the Cross. Oh, beautiful. This passage is from John of the Cross's great poem, Canticle, and throughout the poem, the poet searches for his lost beloved. John began writing the poem while he was imprisoned by his Carmelite brothers for daring to call for a reformation in his order, as Teresa had done in her Carmelite order for women. Fancy being imprisoned by your brothers for inviting them to change. Ah, the lover searches everywhere, over hills and through valleys, forests and cities. And finally he finds his beloved. My beloved is in the mountains. Beloved is John's favorite name for God, as it was for Rumi, the great Sufi mystic. Yet his beloved is not hiding in the mountains and the valleys and the islands and the rivers. His beloved is the mountains, the valleys, the islands and rivers. This is raw pantheism. God is also paradoxical. The beloved is silent music and sounding solitude, and God is a refreshing supper that deepens love. Have you ever lost God, only to find God again in nature? Well, I have. What paradox captures or names your own divine experience? Let's leave it at that Let's just gather our thoughts. Let's come together and just be still in the presence of the divine in the cathedral of nature, a cathedral that's overwhelmingly beautiful, and where its creatures are sacrificed by the children of God because they see them as an imposition, not as an equal player. Let us come now into this cathedral of light. Let us take our rightful place with the animal kingdom. And in the stillness, let there be no fear of reprisal for daring to be different, for daring to speak our truth like John of the Cross. Let us hold firm to the words that we are given by the Beloved. Let us nurture those words. Let us feed from those words. And may those words ignite an internal flame that burns brightly. That burns brightly. Be still. And with every in-breath that we breathe, we are breathing in the love of ordinary men and women who have gone before us, but who've left us a legacy of love. A legacy to embrace, a legacy to reclaim, a legacy to own, a legacy of life in this amazing cathedral, the landscape, the cathedral of light. Be still and allow the Spirit of the four winds and the Spirit of God breathe over you and refresh you in your mind, in your body, and in your soul. Come to this wellspring of life. Drink from the waters of everlasting love, and let them replenish you. Let them restore you to balance, to harmony and divine connectedness. May you find your paths through the bracken and the dark night of the soul. May that light burning bright in you show you the way home to love, and fall into the arms of the Beloved. Just visualize the cosmic Christ before you. His arms are outstretched, and he doesn't call you a sinner. He calls you my friend. And he embraces you now. And he touches you. He touches your mind, your body and spirit with this selfless love. And he allows you to rest your weary head on his cosmic heart. And he folds his arms around you, and he gathers you as a shepherd gathers his flock. And he walks you gently to that place of safety where you need to be. Be still now and embrace child of the Beloved, a co-creator of God. Amen. And now, as we leave our castle, we say this beautiful prayer together, the prayer of exit. I am a channel of grace. As I leave my castle, grace surrounds me and grace protects me. I enter my life under the blessing of God, and I remain open to receive guidance from my soul. We thank you, Father, Mother God, for the words that we have received this evening, or this morning in the case of dear Miriam in New Zealand, and we celebrate our divinity by taking back our power from fear, from illness, from despondency, and by walking one step at a time, not rushing or running, but one step at a time, and allowing our heart hear the voice of the Beloved speak to us. Namaste. Shalom inshallah paxet bonum om shanti. Solo di caritas. Salam alaikum. And may the peace of your God Goddess reawaken your heart to your beauty and your truth and your lovableness, and that the Father, Mother God is calling you to play in the eternal city, here in the Cathedral of God. God bless you. I look forward to your company again. Till the next time, love one another. Love one another.